On cold coastal towns, people learn to read the tides the way others read calendars. In the town of Gray Harbor, the tide chart hung in every kitchen, every bait shop, every bar. It told you when the ferries ran, when the fishing boats left, and if you believed the older folks, when it was safest to walk alone near the water. On November 12th, 2011, the tide went out just after 10 p.m. And with it, a woman named Emily Carter seemed to vanish. The official story is short and unsatisfying. Emily was 29, a nurse at the small hospital across the bay. She worked the late shift and usually took the 10:15 p.m. ferry back to Gray Harbor. Her friends described her as punctual in a way that bordered on obsessive. She hated being late. She hated waiting even more. That Saturday, she finished work at 9:50 p.m. A security camera shows her leaving the hospital lobby with her backpack slung over one shoulder and a paper bag from the cafeteria in her hand. She waves to the night guard, pushes through the glass doors, and disappears into the dark parking lot. From there, the trail breaks into fragments. A gas station camera 2 blocks away catches her crossing the road at 10:02 p.m., her steps quick, breath visible in the cold air. She looks at her phone but doesn't stop walking. The dock is a 12-minute walk from the hospital. She has just enough time to make the ferry. The ferry logs confirm that the 10:15 boat departed on schedule, with 27 passengers and 4 crew members on board. No one remembers seeing a woman matching Emily's description. No one remembers seeing anyone running at the last minute or shouting for the ferry to wait, or standing alone on the dock after it left. The crew insists she never boarded, yet her bus pass, used to pay for the ferry, was charged at 10:13 p.m. A small plastic card is swiped. A green light blinks. A transaction is logged. But the person holding the card seems to evaporate. The next morning, Emily's roommate, Jess, wakes up to an empty bed and a phone buzzing on the kitchen counter. It's the hospital, asking why Emily missed her shift. Jess tries to call her, then notices her phone lying right there, screen flashing from missed calls. That's the first thing that doesn't make sense. Emily never left her phone behind. Not once. By noon, Jess has reported her missing. By evening, local volunteers are walking the shoreline with flashlights, calling her name into the wind. They find nothing. No broken railing, no footprints in the sand leading into the sea, no backpack, no jacket, no body. Just the same calm gray water that everyone in town thought they knew. The police offer a simple answer. She must have fallen in. Maybe she slipped. Maybe she jumped. The tide could have taken her far from Gray Harbor by morning. But if that were true, it raises one question that nobody can comfortably answer. If Emily Carter never boarded the ferry, who used her pass at 10:13 p.m.? The ferry terminal at night is the kind of place you don't notice until you have to. A long, low building with fog-streaked windows, humming vending machines, and the dull rattle of metal benches when someone shifts their weight. The terminal camera watches everything. Police reviewed the footage from that night over and over again. The camera shows passengers filing through the gate, scanning their passes at the turnstile, then walking onto the ferry. Sometimes they're in groups, sometimes alone. Sometimes they look tired, sometimes drunk, sometimes bored. At 10:13 p.m., the time stamped on Emily's card, the footage shows something strange. A person in a dark hooded jacket walks into frame. Their head is angled down, so the hood hides most of their face. They move quickly, almost impatiently. They swipe a card, Emily's card, and the turnstile clicks open. But instead of walking into the ferry waiting area like everyone else, the figure steps just out of camera range, to the left. The camera never captures them boarding the boat. It never shows them leaving either. It's like they walked into a blind spot and dissolved there. When detectives freeze the frame and zoom in, the resolution breaks into blocks of pixels. The height suggests someone roughly Emily's size. The build might be similar, but there is no way to confirm whether the figure is Emily herself or someone else using her card. The Ferry crew sticks to their story. They don't remember anyone in a hood dodging past them. But it's late, they're tired, and no one is counting faces. The transaction log for that night lists Emily's pass number and the 10:13 p.m. swipe. After that, there is no record of her card being used again. Police later find the card in her wallet, which is still in her backpack, which is still in her closet at home. So the card was used, and then somehow returned to her bedroom without anyone knowing. At least that's how the timeline appears on paper. The investigation digs into the hours leading up to her disappearance. Nurses say Emily seemed tired but normal. She joked about a difficult patient. She mentioned picking up extra shifts to save for a trip next summer. One coworker remembers her saying, "I just need to get through this winter. After that, everything will be different." Her browser history shows nothing alarming. No searches about self-harm or running away. Just weather forecasts, ferry schedules, and a bookmarked article titled, "How long can you disappear before you're declared dead?" That last one makes the detectives pause. They trace calls and messages on her phone. The last outgoing text is at 9:41 p.m. to her roommate. "Grabbed food at the hospital. Don't wait up." At 10:26 p.m., Jess sends. "All good?" It remains unread. The phone is later found at home on the counter, never moved. So if Emily wrote, "Don't wait up," at 9:41, why is her phone back in the apartment by midnight when Jess gets home? Jess insists it wasn't there earlier when she left for a late shift at the cafe. She says she would have noticed because they share the tiny kitchen table and fight over space constantly. Police note the inconsistency but can't prove anything. Then there's the witness on the bridge. Around 10:20 p.m., a taxi driver crossing the old steel bridge that overlooks the bay reports seeing someone walking along the outer pedestrian path, too close to the railing. It's dark, visibility is poor. But he tells police he thinks it was a woman wearing something light under a darker jacket. He doesn't stop the car. He's late for his next fare. By the time officers check the bridge, there's no one there. One of the detectives, a man named Hargrove, becomes obsessed with the idea that the figure on the bridge and the hooded figure at the terminal are the same person. He points out that, technically, someone could swipe a ferry card, exit the terminal, and walk to the bridge within minutes. It takes about 9 minutes at a brisk pace. But to accept that theory, you also have to accept something else. That would mean Emily did reach the terminal, that she used her own card, that she then changed her mind, turned around, and walked alone into the freezing wind above the bay. And even if that's true, it still doesn't explain how her phone and her card ended up back in her apartment, sitting quietly beside a cold cup of coffee. Every coastal town has its own collection of late-night stories. In Gray Harbor, they cluster around the water. People swear they've seen lights on empty boats. They talk about fog that rolls in so fast it feels intentional. They talk about voices you can hear when the wind drops, just before the tide turns. At first, these stories seem unrelated to Emily's case, until a man named Caleb Reed walks into the station. Caleb is 53, a fisherman all his life. His skin is the color of rope that's been left in the sun too long. He doesn't own a smartphone. He still uses a paper calendar. The officers know him. They've arrested him twice for public drunkenness and once for shouting at teenagers near the docks. He asks to talk to Detective Hargrove specifically. They sit in a small interview room. The recorder clicks on. Caleb explains that on the night Emily disappeared, he was out on his small boat, the Marlin's Echo, checking crab pots farther down the bay. He left around 8:30 p.m., alone, like he always does. Around 10:30 p.m., as he was heading back, the motor coughed and died. He drifted for a while, cursing the engine and the cold, when he noticed something strange. The fog around his boat wasn't moving. It hung there, thick and heavy, as if the air had turned to glass. Caleb says he started to hear something. At first he thought it was the ferry's horn, but it was too soft, too rhythmic. It sounded like footsteps, footsteps moving along metal, echoing across water. He turned toward the direction of the ferry route, but he couldn't see anything. No lights, no silhouette of the big white vessel, just fog. Then he heard a voice, a woman's voice, close enough that he swears it could have been from the next boat over. She said one word, "Please." The recorder crackles as Caleb shifts in his chair. He swallows, says he knows how it sounds, says he'd almost convinced himself he'd imagined it. Then he went home and heard from his daughter that a woman had vanished near the bay that same night. He tells Hargrove he didn't come forward sooner because he didn't want to be the town drunk, telling ghost stories to the cops again. But the more he thought about it, the more it bothered him. He's sure, he says, that there was someone else out on the water that night. Not a ferry, not a fishing boat, something smaller, moving without lights. Police check radar and vessel logs. There's no record of any unauthorized craft in the area during that time frame. The Coast Guard shrugs. If someone was careful, they could take a small motorboat out without drawing attention. Hargrove adds Caleb's story to the file, even though his colleagues roll their eyes. Still, the idea worms its way into the investigation. If someone wanted to make a person disappear without a body, a boat in thick fog would be a convenient place to start. The working theory shifts. Maybe Emily never fell from the bridge. Maybe she never intended to catch the ferry. Maybe the card swipe at 10:13 p.m. was deliberate misdirection. If someone used her pass to create a timestamp, to make it look like she was still near the terminal, while she was already somewhere else. Somewhere like a small, unregistered boat waiting beneath the bridge. Then the question becomes, did she go there willingly? Or did someone take her? 2 months after the disappearance, the case is already cooling. The posters on telephone poles are faded and peeling, showing a missing person's face, barely visible through the wear and tear. The town has folded Emily into the category of things that happen: storms, accidents, bad winters. Then Jess, Emily's roommate, finds something at the back of their shared closet. It's a shoebox. Inside, an envelope with photos, and a key that doesn't match anything in their apartment. She brings the box to Detective Hargrove. The photos are printed, not digital. In an age when everything lives on a screen that already feels defensive, secretive, they show Emily with a man the detectives don't recognize. Sometimes they're at a cafe in the city, sometimes near a stretch of coastline Hargrove doesn't recognize, sometimes just sitting in a car at night, laughing. In every picture, the man's face is either turned away, in shadow, or cut off at the edge of the frame, like someone has been very careful not to capture him fully. He wears the same style of dark hooded jacket in nearly every shot. On the back of one photo, in Emily's handwriting, there are 3 words. When this is over. The key in the box eventually leads them to a storage unit on the outskirts of town, rented under Emily's name. Inside, the light flickers to reveal not much. A few boxes of old textbooks, a suitcase, an air mattress still in its packaging, and taped to the wall, a faded ferry schedule with several dates circled in red. On a small metal table, there's a map of the bay, with a spot beneath the bridge marked with an X. The detectives look at each other. Someone says what everyone is thinking. Was she planning to leave? They bring Jess back in for another interview. She's pale, tired, angry at herself for not noticing any of this earlier. No, she didn't know about the storage unit. No, she never met the man in the photos. No, Emily never said she wanted to run away. She had been frustrated, yes. Tired of the hospital politics, tired of Gray Harbor winters. But she talked about vacations, not disappearances. Hargrove becomes fixated on the man in the photos. They enhance the images as best they can. One frame finally gives them part of a profile, a cheekbone, the edge of a jawline. It's enough for facial recognition software to spit out a list of 20 potential matches. 19 are dead ends. The 20th is a man named Daniel Royce. Royce lives in a city 2 hours away. He works in maritime logistics, a company that manages cargo routes and private vessels. He has no criminal record. His LinkedIn profile is painfully normal. A neighbor describes him as polite, the kind you barely notice. When police ask him about Emily, he denies knowing her at first. Then they show him the photos. Something in his face closes. He asks for a lawyer. With legal counsel present, he admits he spent time with her, but insists he had nothing to do with her disappearance. They were friends, he says. Closer than friends, sometimes. He claims she was unhappy, that she talked often about wanting to start over somewhere else. When they ask why he never came forward after she was reported missing, he shrugs. I thought maybe she finally did it, he says. Maybe she finally left. His phone records show late-night calls to Emily in the weeks before she vanished. Some last an hour, some last just a minute. The final call from his phone to hers is on November 11th, the night before she disappeared, at 11:52 p.m. It lasts exactly 14 seconds. What can you say to someone in 14 seconds? Surveying his life, detectives find one more thing. Daniel owns a small boat, registered under his company's name, not his own. A boat that, on the night of November 12th, was supposedly under maintenance. The logbook in his office says the vessel never left its mooring that week. The harbor master, however, remembers something else. He remembers seeing Daniel around 8 p.m., carrying supplies down to the dock. He remembers hearing an engine start sometime after 9. He didn't log it because private trips aren't his concern, as long as they stay within the bay. When detectives confront Daniel with this, he says he sometimes let colleagues borrow the boat, that he can't be sure he was the last one to use it. His lawyer advises him not to answer further. The problem is simple and maddening. Nothing proves he picked up Emily beneath the bridge that night. But nothing proves he didn't. Years pass, and the official case file grows heavier but not clearer. No body washes ashore. No second life for Emily appears under a different name in another country. The ferry terminal is renovated, new turnstiles, new cameras. The blind spot where the hooded figure once stood no longer exists. Gray Harbor learns to speak about Emily the same way it speaks about storms and bad fishing seasons, with a shrug, with a shake of the head, with the quiet resignation of people who know the sea doesn't always give things back. But there are still nights when people remember. Jess never moved out of the apartment they shared. She sometimes wakes up thinking she's heard the sound of a key turning in the front door. Detective Hargrove retires early, with Emily's file still on his desk. He keeps a copy of the ferry ticket logs and the blurry still image of the hooded figure at 10:13 p.m. on his living room wall. The town's teenagers trade updated versions of the story, adding flourishes depending on who's listening. Some say that if you stand on the bridge at 10:13 p.m. on a November night and look down at the water, You can see the reflection of a woman standing beside a man you can't quite make out. Some say a small boat appears in the fog sometimes, moving without sound. And if you shout Emily's name at it, the engine cuts out for just a second before it continues on its way. Caleb Reed still goes out on the Marlin's Echo, though not as often. Every now and then, when the tide is low and the fog hangs thick, he kills the motor and just listens. He says the water is never truly quiet, that there is always something moving just out of sight. As for Daniel Royce, he eventually sells his boat. His company does well. He moves inland, away from the coast, away from bridges and ferries and tide charts. Whenever a reporter calls to ask him about the Emily Carter case, he says he has nothing to add, then hangs up. Without a confession, without a witness, without a body, the law can't say what happened. But the story leaves us with fragments we can't quite fit together. A phone left on a kitchen counter, a ferry pass used at 10:13 p.m., a hooded figure stepping into a blind spot, a storage unit with a map and an X beneath the bridge, a small boat that may or may not have left its mooring, a fisherman hearing a woman say, "Please," across motionless fog. Maybe Emily planned everything, down to the last swipe of her card. Maybe she met someone that night who offered her exactly what she said she wanted, a chance to disappear, to start over somewhere new. Or maybe she stepped into a situation she thought she controlled and realized too late that she didn't. We like to believe that if we follow the rules, if we scan our cards, keep our schedules, check the tide charts, life will behave in a way we can understand. But sometimes, a person walks down a familiar street, under familiar lights, toward a ferry they've taken 100 times, and the world quietly rearranges itself around them. They go missing, not just from the place they stood, but from every version of their future anyone had imagined, and so the tide goes out. The bay looks the same, the ferry runs on time, but somewhere in that gap between 10:13 p.m. and 10:15, someone simply stops existing in a way the rest of us can measure. What do you think happened to Emily Carter on that cold November night? Did she engineer her own escape? Was she taken by someone who knew the water better than the land? Or did something else move through the fog of Gray Harbor that night? Something none of our cameras or logs or theories can fully explain. What do you think really happened in this case? I want to hear your theory. Share your thoughts in the comments. Every opinion helps uncover another piece of the puzzle. And if you want more stories like this one, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter.